Welcome to Crystal's Crochet Cubbyhole. This is Tutorial Tuesday, and today we are going to do our washcloth stitch tutorial, and we are going to make staggered block mesh is the stitch pattern we're going to be using. If you know how to chain and single crochet, that's basically all it is in a certain pattern. This this washcloth or this pattern, you do it in multiples of 3 plus your beginning chain. So you'll need a tape measure to make sure that your width, and if you're doing square, to make sure that your width and your depth are the same, length and width, whatever. You'll need a pair of scissors for cutting your yarn. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. You'll need a needle for sewing in your ends. I'm using a 6mm crochet hook, and this yarn right here, I'm not for sure. Let's see. Oh, it has something inside. It says Pisca yarn and dyeing. This is the color Desert Bloom, and it's 100% cotton. So that's the color I'm using. My little doodle that I got from one of those places. Here's I'm going to use this to hold it and to unravel it as I'm going along. So hopefully that'll work good for us. And I am going to do multiples of 3 again, like I said, and this is a 2-row repeat. So I also have pen and paper so that I can keep track of what repeat row I am on, so I don't do 2 of the same thing in a row. Okay, we're going to start with a slip knot. Okay, and multiples of 3, I'm going to go ahead and chain 30, which is a multiple of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to do 30 chains. I'll be right back. 30, and then I need to do 1 more for the beginning chain. So 30 plus 1. Excuse me. Now in row number 1, we're going to do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, because this first chain is our chain 1. So single crochet, you go in, pull up a loop, have 2 loops on your hook, pull through all 2, sorry. Okay, now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to skip a chain, and then I'm going to put a single crochet in the next 2 chains. So a single crochet in this chain and a single crochet in this chain. And then I'm going to chain 1. And again, I'm going to skip a chain and then do a single crochet in the next 2. Hope you guys are doing great today. Woo! About to whirl my little thing right off the wheel and off the table. Okay, I'm going to chain 1, skip a chain, and then do a single crochet in the next 2. 1, and then the next one. So there's 2 single crochets. Then I'm going to skip a chain, chain 1, skip a chain, and single crochet in the next 2. So this is the pattern for row 1, is you're doing your chain 1, skip a chain, then single crochet in the next 2, all the way across. Chain 1, skip a chain, then 2 single crochets over the next 2 chains. 1, 2, chain 1, skip a chain, then single crochet in the next 2. There's 1, 2, chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet 1, single crochet in the next one, 2, chain 1, skip a chain, single crochet in the next 2 chains, 1, 2. Now we're coming down on the end. We have 2 chains left, so we're going to chain 1, skip a chain, and do a single crochet in that very last chain. Okay, now we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to start our repeats. The next 2 rows, row 2 and 3, are our repeat rows. So on row 2, we've chained 1. We're going to go in this very first stitch right here and do a single crochet. Now we've got the space that we created from the row before, and we're going to do 2 single crochets in that chain space. 1, 2, chain 1, and this is going to be the repeat for this row. We're going to go find our next chain space. So see, we did 2 singles, and there's our chain space. So into that chain space, we're going to do 2 single crochets. 1, 2, chain 1, and again, and if it helps you to count, you can go 1, 2 chains, because those were the single crochets below. Then this third one over here should be your chain space. Okay, so 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1, find our chain space again, and 2 single crochets. 1, 2, chain 1. Let me get some more yarn. Okay, now we're looking for our chain space again. Right there it is. And see, I've skipped those 2 chains, and it's that third chain is where our chain space is, and you're going through that space and chaining 2 single crochets through that space and around that chain. So chain 1, then 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1, 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. Now find our chain space. There we go. 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. And again, there's our chain space. 1, 2 single crochets, chain 1. Now let me write this down real quick. We are on the second row. Right there. We're on row number 2, which is the beginning of our repeat rounds. And we have 2, it's a 2-row repeat. So now we find our next chain space, which is right here near the end. 2 single crochets into that space. 1, 2. And then to make this side match the other side, we're going to do a single crochet in that very last stitch of this round. It's a little hard to grab a hold of at first, but there we go. You do a single crochet in that stitch, chain 1, and turn our work. And there's what we got going on so far. So now we're getting ready to do row 3, which is the last row of the repeat. We have chained 1 and turned. So now in this very first stitch right here, and you can see there's your chain 1. So the second chain from the hook is where you're starting at. And you're going to do a single crochet into that chain. And then you're going to chain 1. And then we're going to go look for our chain space. Right there it is. and we're going to go 2 single crochets into that chain space. Chain 1, find your chain space, 2 single crochets. This is a pretty easy pattern to follow. I think that you'll enjoy it, and it'll be not too difficult for you. And again, this is the staggered block mesh is this pattern that this is, the stitch. So we've chained 1. Now we're going to find our chain space, 2 single crochets into that chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. There's the chain space, 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. And again, all the way across, 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. There's our chain space. 2 single crochets. 1, 2, chain 1. Chain space. Okay. 2 single crochets in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. Again. 1, 2, chain 1, and again 1, 2 in the same space, chain 1, and again we are I don't know what I was going to say. Now at the end here on this one, we want to make it match the other. So you've done your 2 single crochet in the chain space, chained 1. Now you go over to the very last stitch in the row and do a single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. Okay, now that is our repeat rows. Row 2 and 3, we repeat until we get it the size that we want. I will do the repeat rounds with you one more time, and then you can always rewind the video and go back and do, and play it over and over however how many times you need to. So we're on row 2 of the very beginning of our repeat rows, and we chained 1 and we turned. So we're going to go into this very first stitch, which is the second one from the hook, because that first one is our chain hook, our chain space, sorry. So the second chain from the hook is, we're going to go in and do a single crochet, and we're going to immediately go into our chain space and do 2 single crochets. 2 single crochets. Chain 1. Jump over to the next chain space, 2 single crochets. So this is the beginning of our repeat round, our repeat rows. Ever how you say that. I'm going to chain 1, jump to my next chain space, 2 single crochets. 1, 2, chain 1. 2 single crochets into the chain space. Chain 1. And you're going all the way across doing that. In each chain space across, you're going to do 2 single crochets, chain 1. 2 single crochets, chain 1. 2 single crochets, chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1, all the way across. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. There's our last chain space. 2 single crochet, and here you do not chain 1, but you go ahead and immediately, to make it match the other side, you'll go in and do a single crochet in the very last stitch or chain of that row. And do a single crochet and turn. Now we're going to go on to the repeat, the second row of the repeat. And in this, we've chained 1 and turned our work. Now in the very first stitch, the second chain from the hook, we're going to do a single crochet, chain 1, jump over to the chain space and do 2 single crochet in the chain space. 1, 2, chain 1. And that will be our repeat now all the way to the end. And when we get to the end, I'll tell you what we do at the end. So find our chain space, 2 single crochet, chain 1. There it is again. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. Get more yarn. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space, chain 1. 2 single crochet in this chain space. It looks like it's the last chain space of our row. Now in this one, and we're on round 3, or the second row of the repeat, we chain 1, and then we're going to jump over to the very last stitch and do a single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. Now guys, I will do this one more time with you because I want to make sure you got it. So we had a 2-row repeat, and we're starting our 2-row repeat right here now. So we're going to go into the very first stitch of this round, which is the second chain from the hook, because we chained 1 and turned, and do a single crochet. Now immediately go into the chain space right there beside of it and do 2 single crochet. Chain 1, oops, and then find your next chain space. Right there it is. 2 single crochet into that chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet into the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. And then give me some more yarn. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. Here's our last chain space of this row. 2 single crochet into that space. And to make it match the other side, we're going to immediately go into the very last stitch of this round, no chain 1, and do another single crochet. So at the end you've got 3 single crochets. You got 2 in the chain space and 1 in the last stitch. Okay, now we chain 1 and turn. Here's the last row of the repeat. We're going to go into the very first stitch of that row, which is the second chain from the hook, and do a single crochet. Now we will chain 1, and we will jump over to our chain space and do 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. Chain space. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. Get some more yarn. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Chain 1. 2 single crochet in the chain space. Get me some more yarn. And to make this side match the other, we chain one, and we go over to the very last stitch of that round, right there, and do a single crochet. Chain one and turn. Now we will keep doing those 2 row repeats until we get it the length and width, till we get the length to match the width, so that we have a perfect little square. So I'll be right back with you at the end and show you the finished washcloth, okay? Okay guys, let me see if I can back up a little bit. There is the washcloth. That's a pretty pattern. And it's a little bit smaller, even though most of the time when I'm doing the chains of 30, it equals about 10 inches. This one turns out to be about 8.5, somewhere in there, about close to 8.5. So 8.5 this way. So there's our washcloth, and I cut it, and tied it off and sewed in the ends. And there is our washcloth for Tutorial Tuesday. And this is in the staggered block mesh stitch. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And we'll talk to you later in Crystal's Crochet Cubbyhole, okay? Bye for now.